I'm Fred. This is Gino. Joining us online is Yen. And the next we're going to talk about is ADPs, and we'll go through consensus board across a number of multiple fantasy websites. And we'll just pull through a few names out of the first 30 picks from tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. And we'll just have a general chat on how we feel about where the expert consensus picks are from a number of these sites. So from tier 1, we've got Christian McCaffrey. I think that's pretty on point from where everybody's at. CeeDee Lamb 2, Tyreek Hill 3, Breece Hall 4, Bijan Robinson 5, who I picked, Ja'Marr Chase 6, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Justin Jefferson round out our tier 1. How do we feel about that top 8? It's pretty solid, if you ask me.
Any one of those players, really, you're going to be happy with. I'll go a different way. A lot of people have been wary of McCaffrey and his injury, so he hasn't been going number 1 overall in a number of drafts that I've been in, and for fair reason. Again, he's just such a solid pick that you know what you're going to get from him week in, week out. But I guess now, talking about the biological side of things and anatomy side of things, was his workload last year so heavy that people have sort of gone off him as well, over 400 odd touches or whatever it was? Is Shanahan going to continue to utilize him in that way? Now that Elijah Mitchell is out, is it Mason? It's Mason, isn't it? The number 3. It's Mason now.
Mason's down. He's the number 2 because Elijah Mitchell's injured. He's out for the season.
Yeah. So is Shanahan going to utilize Mason more now to keep McCaffrey a little bit fresher? I love him. I can't see why you wouldn't take him. I can understand the hesitancy in some people, but I can't go past McCaffrey.
I'm a contrarian. Whenever I've had pick 1, I've never picked Christian McCaffrey. I picked one of 3 players. It's either been Tyreek Hill, Breece Hall, or Bijan Robinson.
Pick 1?
Yeah, for sure. Like Breece Hall and Bijan Robinson have got top 5 offensive lines. So that means they're going to have pass protection. They should have, the line should open up holes for them to run through. And if it's going to be a dink and dunk situation, like if it's Rodgers or Kirk Cousins, they're going to have plenty of time for the running back to split out and get the easy ball. But for me, with Trent Williams being out, he hasn't signed yet. So he's probably not going to play week 1 as it is. They play the Jets. They're no slouches on the defensive line, and they've got a really hard schedule. So McCaffrey had, around 400 touches last year, and he went all the way through to the Super Bowl. He probably missed one game, went all the way through to the Super Bowl. Last time he had about 300 touches or so, his body broke down the next year. Now, he's at that age of about 28, turning 29 this year. He's coming into the season with a supposed calf strain. And okay, it's not serious, I get it, but this is something to be wary of if you're taking Christian McCaffrey. Am I projecting his downfall? Potentially. Do I want it to happen? No, because I've got certain biases and I don't want that to happen. But having said that, a best offensive lineman is down. Brandon Ayuk has also been out for a long period of time. He's a great wide receiver who can run block as well. He's been out. He's been in tracksuit all off-season. These are huge deficiencies in the offensive line. And if you go back to last year where the 49ers played Cleveland and Trent Williams went out, Christian McCaffrey was a virtual no-show. So these are my concerns about drafting Christian McCaffrey, pick 1 overall.
What are you going to do if he comes out and scores 30 points this week?
Oh, well, good on him. I mean, fantastic. I don't have him in any teams anyway.
It's nice and fresh.
It means he's ready to go, basically.
Yeah, okay, but it's 1 week. It's not 17 weeks. He can break down at any point, yeah? So he can come and score 30 and then 20. It doesn't mean he's not going to break down later on.
Fair enough, yep. What about you?
I'll echo your sentiments in the last segment about Justin Jefferson. I am not confident on that quarterback situation with Sam Darnold and their first-round pick, McCarthy, now being out. I always see a correlation between wide receivers and the quarterback. Now, he'll get his targets and he'll get his catches. I'm just going to project that he's going to see a reduction this year. versus when he had Kirk Cousins. This is not a knock on Jefferson's talent. It's not a knock on who he is as a player. I just think the Darnold situation, just at quarterback, may see a reduced production. Now, he did perform. I think there were some games where he had Nick Mullins last year where he did perform.
Yeah.
I just think that maybe he's on that fringe of tier 1. Not his talent, maybe at the fantasy production level, but I could see Justin Jefferson easily be taken in the second round, high second round, if you were looking to go that way. But he's probably on the fringe at the moment of tier 1 for me, if I was looking at it.
Well,
I think everyone that has Justin Jefferson is probably hoping that Nick Mullins comes back in at some point, because when he did play last year with Jefferson, he was absolutely flying, and was still on par for close to 2,000 yards. So,
well, it could go the other way, right? Like, it could go the other way. Like, if he did perform with Nick Mullins, I'd assume Sam Darnold is a better quarterback, and he's had the whole offseason with Sam Darnold that he should produce, right? But it should give you some pause that Justin Jefferson may not see the same level of production, right, with Sam Darnold, because he is a journeyman at this point. Number 2 overall pick, he is a journeyman. He's seen a number of offenses. He's just going into another year. Who knows if he's going to be in Minnesota next year, right? If McCarthy comes back healthy, and he'd be the presumed number 1 quarterback next year if he does come back. So, not a knock on Jefferson at all. I just think maybe he's on that cusp of 1 and 2.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Do you think Darnold is a better quarterback than Mullins? Surely, come on. Nick Mullins he doesn't have an arm, and he's really inaccurate, right?
Well,
so let's go into
I think Darnold is a better quarterback than Nick Mullins. You'd hope so. You'd hope so if you're a Vikings fan.
Well, I'm definitely hoping so, since I've got him. But here are some numbers in his last 4 games with Nick Mullins, right? So he came back from injury, 7 receptions for 84 yards. The next game he went 6 for 141 and a touchdown. The next game, 5 for 59. That was against the Green Bay Packers. But then in the last game against Detroit, he went 12 for 192 and a touchdown. This is with Nick Mullins.
So you'd hope.
In the last 4 games. And if you think about it, in terms of those intermediate passes and intermediate routes, Sam Darnold's a better thrower than Nick Mullins. Like, I was watching a lot of those games as well because I was invested in Justin Jefferson, because I traded Mike Evans for Justin Jefferson during the season.
Nick Mike Evans, he's great. He's great trade bait.
He's great trade bait. But
I'm telling you right now, Mike Evans, you asked the question. I've tried to trade Mike Evans multiple times since I've had him, and it's not because he's not producing. He does produce. It's just that he's just not that number 1. So I'm going left field. But yes, you traded him. See, you've just proved my point.
I did. Well, JJ was injured. Mike Evans was flying. I figured if I was going to make finals, he'd be great to have later on in the season. But that aside, you can't say Mullins is better than Sam Darnold.
No, I'm not. I didn't say that. I'm just saying you'd hope Darnold would be better.
I just haven't answered because I both think they're rubbish. So, I mean, and I have, again, certain biases against Sam Darnold from his time at the Jets. But, I don't know. JJ's going to get you a safe floor. We know that.
Look, all I know, Yen, is that Sam Darnold is going to make his Kurt Warner moment this year.
That aside, did you know before he came to Minnesota, he was a 7-8 quarterback, Kirk Cousins. So Kevin O'Connell does have an influence and a scheme that does help quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So let's see what Kirk Cousins does in Atlanta, because like I said, without the Vikings and Kevin O'Connell, he was a 7-8 guy. Is he going to revert back to his Washington days, or is he going to continue on the same path as what he was when he was at Minnesota? So let's see. So, and if Kevin O'Connell is as good as what people think he is as a coach, maybe that influence might rub off on Sam Darnold, considering they've had a whole off-season together as well.
Well, something has to happen with Sam Darnold because he's been a disappointment from start to this point. So maybe this is it.
He won that one game at the end of the season for the 49ers, so that was not bad.
Yeah. Much to the dismay of another member of our main fantasy league.
That's fine. Benefited me, so it's all good.
Yeah.
Usually quarterbacks end their in their journey with the Jets, but his journey ended before it began. Like, he got
Your
drafted to
career's
the Jets, and
your
that was it.
career's ended the moment you get drafted by the Jets. What are you
That's
talking
what
about?
I'm
Look what
saying.
happened to Aaron Rodgers.
The
He
swan
lasted
song.
3 plays.
The swan song for any quarterback. Brett Favre, Boomer Esiason. Yeah, it could be Aaron Rodgers as well. Who knows? Who knows? So
It
maybe,
actually could be.
so I might lament that Garrett Wilson pick by the end of it. Who knows? So
Aaron Rodgers is an injury away from being taken to the back and shot like Old Yeller and just put down. Like, he's that far, so close to being injured and then career over. It's what the Jets do.
It is. It really is. And look, I want to see what they can do with him fit, but at the same time, I really don't care if that happens, I'll be honest.
So I'm sure Nathaniel Hackett will scheme some great plays for Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson to get open this year.
So in summary, Jay Jetters, if you're, say, pick 8, 9 in a 10-man league, you can probably hold on until, if you're doing a snake draft, you can probably hold on until the second, third pick, I reckon, in my opinion. But you take that gamble, but I don't think you lose out taking Justin Jefferson in the first round anyway. So
No.
All right, so we'll move on. So tier 2, now there's not many players in this tier 2 by consensus, but you have AJ Brown, Garrett Wilson, Jonathan Taylor, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley, and then Puka Nacua, which I love seeing that because I took him an absolute value in the third round. So
you're all right.
I'll let Yen, you start off here. Do you want those names again, or would you get them?
No. Look, in terms of the second round, then Jimmy Gibbs is not in the second round.
Well, this is tier 2, so it's Jahmyr Gibbs. Yes, he's in there.
Look, again, for me, if I was to make a pick, it'd be between Jimmy Gibbs and Saquon Barkley. Again, two of the best offensive lines should get ample opportunity to run the ball. Saquon, you could probably say, is in the better situation, considering he's the lone running back and so forth, so he should feast. But then if you think about it as well, how many of those goal line snaps does Jalen Hurts take? That's the
100%.
only thing. So, and they always go Jalen Hurts within 5 yards and so forth to run it in. So that's an area of concern. And also, they've got a great offensive line, even though Kelsey is out. But is he going to stay fit? He hasn't been fit for God knows how long. Production has regressed since his rookie season. He's not as explosive. He's not as agile. But having said that, Jahmyr Gibbs and Saquon would be my 2 picks. And again, Jonathan Taylor is a little bit of a concern because now they got Anthony Richardson. So that's a similar situation again. So he'll shark a lot of those red zone snaps within the first 5 yards where he'll run it in like Cam Newton and so forth. And if you look at last year's stats, they didn't really use Jonathan Taylor a lot. They didn't pass to him that much.
No.
So that if you need him in a PPR situation, Jonathan Taylor's not that great to have, and you better hope that he's going to run for 100 yards every game. So
Yeah, I think from memory, I think he only had 170 or 180 receive yards and only 1 received touchdown last year. So that's Jonathan Taylor. Barkley, I'm the same. I'm with you with Barkley. The upside's there because he's going to get the lion's share of the carries, but then at the line, it's not going to be him. It's just not. And with Kellen Moore there now, where everyone's saying that it's going to be a bit more of an up-tempo offense, that's going to lean more on Jalen Hurts taking quick snaps to run the ball at the line as well. I would have thought they're not going to waste time to hand the ball off. I wouldn't have thought, but I guess we'll wait and see. But any running quarterback is always going to shark some TDs at the line for any running back.
Is the tush push banned this year, or is it still a goer?
No, it's still good.
Still good, and even though Kelsey's out, apparently they're still going to use it. So
yeah, that's because that's a massive thing, right? Like if you're behind Kelsey under center running the tush push, like he can take on a double team easily. Like he can
absolutely.
So I'll throw back a question to you, Yen. So on that same premise, you were saying that Barkley may get vultured at the line with Hurts, and you said something about Jahmyr Gibbs. Do you have concern about Jahmyr Gibbs with David Montgomery? Montgomery over 1,000 yards last year, 13 TDs. 13 TDs. Is there some pause for concern there? I mean, there's still number one and number two there. I've taken Montgomery in a couple of leagues. I'm hoping for the same production because I don't have Gibbs. But is there some pause there that you think that could limit him?
If you look at towards the end of the season, they started leaning on Jahmyr Gibbs a lot more, especially during the playoffs. Now, there are two concerns with Jahmyr Gibbs. The first thing is that he's a little bit fumbly, so that's a knock on him. And if you look at the number of fumbles he had, it was quite a lot, and even in the playoffs as well. So that's one concern. I think he's going to get the lion's share eventually, personally, anyway. The other thing as well is that he's coming into the season with an injury. That's my other concern with Jahmyr Gibbs. Having said that, out of all those players in that second tier, he would still be my preference to choose.
Yep. I'll just echo your sentiments. I'd take Barkley as well in that second round. I think that line, that offense, I think they've got a lot of weaponry out wide. I think they'll just open up lighter boxes for Barkley to run through. He's got Lane Johnson on the right. He's got Mailata on the left. They'll just run outside zone, hoping they do, and he'll just feast. So if I were to take anyone in that tier two, it'd be Barkley for me. So I think we've got a consensus there. All right. To round it off, tier three. Now, it's quite a long list, so I'll go through as quickly as I can. So we have Marvin Harrison Jr., the rookie out of the Cardinals. Then we got Drake London, Derrick Henry, Travis Etienne Jr., Devontae Adams, Chris Olave, Mike Evans. Hey, Mike Evans, there he is. Just sitting around in the top 30. Kyron Williams, Deebo Samuel, Senior. Okay. Nico Collins, Josh Allen, Isaiah Pacheco, Brandon Ayuk, Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, Cooper Kupp, and Jalen Hurts. Is he the first quarterback? No, Josh Allen. Okay. Gino, I'll round it off to you. So you picking anyone in this third tier?
All day, every day, Mr. Reliable running back Derrick Henry with the Ravens. I managed to get him in our secondary league, as you both know. He is in the perfect situation to have the Raheem Mostert year last year at the line with the Ravens. They don't want to run Jackson anywhere near as often anymore, and they don't run Jackson at the line. But Derrick Henry is going to have at least 15 touchdowns this year if he stays healthy. He is in the best situation, I think, of his whole career. Everyone says, yeah, he's 30 now, he's always 30 plus now, blah, blah, blah. This guy is a different beast. He is just going to continue to churn, and he's going to continue to burn defenses. And when he gets to that line, you better believe that they're handing it off to him. I'm taking Derrick Henry every single time.
Any thoughts about that, Ian?
All valid points. And if you look at what Gus Edwards did last year, 15 touchdowns, I think Derrick Henry is the better running back out of the two options. So he should have a monster year. I think it'll be similar to what LeGarrette Blount did in his last best season at the Pats. That's what I see him doing anyway.
Yep, 100%. It's a match made in heaven. And I don't know why teams like the Dallas Cowboys didn't try and get him. He would have been a perfect fit there as well. I really feel that he would have been a perfect fit there, but it's probably bad luck really now, because I think this is actually what the Ravens need to go the next step. If they're going to go the next step, they needed someone like this. Obviously, all their players and need to stay injury free, and he's a massive piece now. Because I think outside of Henry, it's Justice Hill and Keaton Mitchell who's still on the pup. But this is going to elevate the Ravens, I think, to potentially winning the AFC Championship game if they get there. And if it's against the Chiefs, it could be the piece that they need to go that next step.
The Ravens going to the AFC Championship.
I think so, yep.
Interesting.
You don't like that, do you?
No, I like it. I just like, how do they get there, right? They were the number one seed last year.
Yep.
They were the number one seed back in 2019, 14-2.
Yep.
They are knocked out by the Titans in their championship. I just don't know how they get. This is not a knock on Lamar Jackson. I just don't know how do they get to the AFC Championship when they've never been to the AFC Championship as the number one seed. So the only way they could go to the AFC Championship if they're the number one seed. Like that's the easiest path, and they've had it twice in the last 5 years. So, anyways, I'm going outside the numbers here, but Derrick Henry, I think I've voiced these concerns. I'm just not sure how they use him. But I think Yen made a valid point. If they use him like Gus Edwards did, because if you see where Derrick Henry came from at Tennessee Titans, right? Ryan Tannehill, under center, running power. He was just explosive, right, over those last few years. I'm just not too sure how they're going to use the Ravens. I actually can't picture it, how they're going to use Derrick Henry in that similar vein. Because he's not that quarterback that runs out of shotgun. He's not. And Lamar Jackson, he does his best out of shotgun. You can run him in quarterback draw out of shotgun. There's an element there where the Ravens offense, the system, doesn't cater to Henry's abilities as a running back because he's not that running back that will sit beside you in the pocket in pistol or in shotgun. I just don't see it. I just don't know how it. Because in that system you have guards pulling, so he's got to follow. He's a great running back. I just can't see it for myself. So to how to quantify, I'm not too sure. But it'd be interesting to see. So, but if they use him like Gus Edwards is, like you said before, Yen, that's if he can replicate production like Gus Edwards, being a better running back, then he'll feast. He'll feast at Bolton. Yeah, now to that tier 3, do you need me to read it out again? Because it's quite a long list.
No. Look, I'll be quick. There's absolute value at the end of tier 3. Out of those 3 options, I would pick Deebo, Kyron, A-Chain. I've already spoken about Kyron and A-Chain. I've got him in basically both my leagues. Deebo Samuel, again, even though Ayuk is there, again, I'm not predicting his downfall or anything, but he hasn't had an off-season like Ja'Marr Chase where you're concerned about. Did get paid. Might take him a bit of time to get into the swing of things, but I think Deebo Samuel is going to be the number one guy there. And if Trent Williams is going to be out and so forth, they're probably going to rely on him a little bit more early before he comes back into the team to take a few more of those run plays and so forth. And he's just a yak guy. So if he's going to catch it, he's the best yard after catch wide receiver in the game. So I think he's great value at the end of the 3rd round or late tier 3.
Mm-hmm. He's built like a running back. Like he's just he's. So your pick, Deebo in the 3rd tier.
Yeah.
For me, if I were to go in that tier, I'd probably go early here. I'll probably go a bit different. I'll probably go Allen. I'd probably go quarterback early. But if I'm going quarterback early in the 3rd round, it'd probably be late 3rd round. I think the value's there for Allen.
Yeah.
I don't know where he finished up last year in terms of the draft rankings, but he would have been up there in the first 1 or 2, 3 picks. But he's the consensus number 1 pick for that position group this year. So I can see the absolute value with Allen. Look, they lost Stephon Diggs there. They drafted Keon Coleman, who's there now. Look, he's been their main running back in some instances in some games, right? Where they just run him out of, just quarterback draws or just running, to the sidelines for touchdowns or anything like that. So I can see the value there for Allen. So if it were me, I'd go a bit different. I'd draft him late. If I was picked, say, the second last or last pick, I'd go Allen as my 3rd pick in that tier.
Yeah. 15 rushing touchdowns last year.
There you go. Yeah.
There'll probably be some regression in the touchdowns. I think they're going to probably want to not keep him on ice, but he'll get somewhere between 10 and 15, but they'll probably want to be a little bit more cautious now that they don't have that standout wide receiver, but they're still going to run him. He's too big. He's too big and he's too strong for them not to. He's too big a weapon.
Yeah, the thing that works for Allen is that he's durable, right? So, in the years that he's been in this Buffalo Bills offense, right, it really hasn't tapered off. They're using him as a running back. They're using him like Cam Newton was back in the day, right? Like Cam could just truck over people. So if it were like Burrow, for instance, right, like you can't use Burrow like that because he'd fold, right, and he'd break, right. So let's be honest,
literally.
right? he'd break. But for Allen, right? Like there's precedence there. Like you see him that he can 15 rushing touchdowns, right? He can run over linebackers. He can run over safeties, right? And safeties have a head of steam behind them, right? When they're running to tackle a quarterback. So, he'd be up there for me. So,
I like it.
Rory might get tackled and end up with a different hair color afterwards.
Let's not go there. Or maybe we should go there. Who knows?
No, that's the end of the segment. Awesome. That's week 1 of 3-Man Coverage Podcast. Thank you for joining us. We will have all our Twitter information and Instagram in the coming days, so stay tuned for that. But we look forward to seeing you for week 2. That's us. See ya.